Welcome to another episode of AI 10X, brought to you by 10 Leaves. Today we are doing a deep dive into something that feels, well, a little bit like science fiction. AI-powered nutrigenomics.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been on a diet and you've just felt like this isn't working for me, even though it's the biggest trend, you're about to find out exactly why.
Exactly. And this really isn't just about losing weight. It goes so much deeper. We're talking about optimizing the fundamental engine of your body.
So the core idea here, the promise, is to replace all the guesswork with genetics.
That's it. We're exploring how AI can customize your nutrition right down to the genetic level. We're asking, what if your diet was designed literally for your specific DNA?
And what would that even mean? What are the implications for your health, your energy, even your longevity?
That's the mission.
I think we've all lived through that era of, generalized panic about food.
Oh, absolutely. The low-fat craze, the low-carb craze.
The fat fears, the carbohydrate scares. It's this endless cycle of trying the next big thing, only to find out it made some influencer feel amazing, but it just left you feeling hungry or sluggish.
And that really highlights the core problem, right? The inefficiency of generalized advice.
It's all based on averages.
Yes. Think about the entire history of dieting. It's all based on these massive population studies. You hear things like, everyone should cut out carbs, or fasting is the key to a long life.
And the frustration comes when those rules work wonders for one person.
Right. The person who just happens to fit the average perfectly.
And then for the next person, it actively harms their metabolism or their energy levels. It feels like we're using a generic key for a really complex, unique lock.
A perfect analogy. And now AI is stepping in to craft that unique key. We're finally moving beyond this idea that we can treat billions of incredibly diverse people as if they all have the exact same metabolic needs.
The data's pretty clear on that now.
It is. One-size-fits-all diets are, well, they're rapidly becoming outdated. They just ignore the most important variable in the whole equation.
The person, the individual genetic code.
Precisely.
So the new goal for nutrition, it's not about following these universal, often super restrictive laws anymore. It's about building a tailored plan that's specific to your body, your chemistry.
Exactly. We are shifting from, let's say, population health recommendations to single-person health prescriptions.
Okay, that brings us to the big technical question then. Because personalizing something as complex as human metabolism, that sounds almost impossibly hard.
It is incredibly complex.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does an AI actually do that? How does it personalize nutrition at such a deep genetic level? Because it's not just reading the A's, T's, C's, and G's, right? It's somehow translating that into eat more broccoli and maybe skip the oatmeal.
Right. And what's so fascinating is that the AI absolutely does not look at your genetics in a vacuum. That would be like reading the owner's manual for a car without knowing if it's got 100,000 miles on it or if it's just been driven through a blizzard.
Bad analogy, but I get it.
It's a bit of a stretch. But the point is, the AI performs a really complex three-dimensional analysis. It looks at your genetic data alongside two other really critical factors.
3 pillars of data then. What are the other 2 that the models are looking at?
So pillar number 1 is, of course, your genetic data, your DNA. But, and this is the key part, it isn't just reading your ancestry.
No, it's looking for something specific.
Exactly. It's looking for what are called single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs for short. These are tiny variations in your DNA that can dramatically influence how you process specific nutrients.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. A classic one is the CYP1A2 gene. It basically dictates how quickly you metabolize caffeine. So a fast metabolizer can have 3 cups of coffee and feel great. But a slow metabolizer, they might have the same amount and feel jittery, crash hard later, and maybe even increase their long-term cardiac risk.
Wow. Okay, so that's a perfect example of why generalized advice fails. A study comes out that says coffee is good for you, but if you have that slow metabolizing gene...
that advice is actively bad for you.
Right. Okay, so that's pillar 1, the genetics. What's the second pillar?
The second pillar is your lifestyle markers, and this is so critical. It includes things you can measure, like your sleep patterns, your daily activity, your stress levels.
The usual suspects.
Yes, but it also includes environmental factors that traditional nutrition just ignores. Things like the air quality where you live or your exposure to pollutants that might impact how you absorb nutrients or your inflammation levels.
Wait, hold on. You're saying the AI might be cross-referencing my genes with the fact that I live near a major freeway?
Potentially, yes. If that data is available and it's relevant to, say, the inflammation markers that it sees in the next pillar. It's trying to find any external force that's putting stress on your internal systems.
That is wild. Okay, so what's that third pillar?
The third pillar is your detailed health markers, and this goes way beyond a standard checkup.
So not just like height and weight.
Not at all. We're talking blood sugar levels, of course, but also really detailed cholesterol profiles, not just LDL, but the actual particle size of that LDL. And crucially, it includes inflammation indicators like C-reactive protein.
And I've heard more and more about the gut microbiome too. Is that part of it?
Increasingly, yes. Detailed data from your gut microbiome is becoming a huge part of this pillar.
Okay, I think I get the goal. You're reading the instruction manual, which is the DNA.
Right.
You're observing the current operating environment, which is the lifestyle stuff.
Yes.
And you're checking the machine's actual performance, the health markers. But how reliable is the output? You're combining all these different kind of messy data sources.
And that is the absolute crux of the AI's value. It's not just reporting on the data, it's finding the non-obvious connections between all three pillars. It's the synthesis.
So it's looking for patterns we would miss.
Exactly. It synthesizes your DNA, your lifestyle, and your health data to generate its most valuable output, which is a prediction. It predicts with high accuracy how you will respond to different foods, different macronutrient ratios, even specific vitamins.
So it's not just a snapshot of now, it's a forecast.
It's a forecast that tells you what fuel is optimal for your unique engine right now, based on everything from where you live to how you sleep.
Okay, so that brings us to the so what moment. The why should I care part.
Right.
If I actually start eating according to my genes, what's the measurable difference? What am I going to feel? Here's where it gets really interesting. What are the tangible benefits?
We can actually move beyond just stories and anecdotes here and focus on three really specific areas of optimization. And the benefits, they go way beyond just, dropping a few pounds.
Although that can be a nice side effect, I'm sure.
It often is, yes.
Okay, let's break those three down. What's the first one? You mentioned metabolism.
Right, optimizing metabolism. This is all about efficiency. We often think a calorie is a calorie, but the AI understands that a calorie from fat versus protein versus a carbohydrate is processed completely differently depending on your genetic makeup.
Like the insulin resistance example.
Exactly. If your DNA suggests you're prone to insulin spikes, the AI might recommend something very specific, like front-loading most of your carbs earlier in the day when your insulin sensitivity is naturally higher.
And then having a meal with a very low glycemic load in the evening.
Precisely. Which means the timing becomes just as important as the ingredients.
So it's not just what, it's when.
Absolutely. The AI could also look at your fat metabolism genes. Some people can handle saturated fats just fine. Others show this dramatic inflammatory response. So the plan becomes avoid coconut oil, prioritize olive oil, not just the vague eat healthy fats.
It's tailoring the fuel to the engine's exact specs.
Okay.
That's metabolism. What's the second area of optimization?
The second is optimizing your energy levels. This is really about getting rid of that classic 3.00 p.m. slump that so many of us just accept as normal.
I know that slump well.
We all do. We talked about the caffeine gene, but imagine optimizing that stability across the entire day. For example, if the AI sees a strong genetic sensitivity to compounds in wheat.
Not like a full-blown allergy.
No, not an allergy, just something that causes a mild inflammatory response, too small to be diagnosed, but big enough to cause brain fog and fatigue. The AI can just steer you towards alternatives like rice or quinoa.
So it's getting rid of that constant low-level friction that just eats away at your focus and productivity all day.
That's a great way to put it. It turns the food on your plate from a potential problem into a tool for consistent, stable energy.
I like that. Okay, and the third area, this feels like the big one, long-term health.
It is. The third area is optimizing for long-term health, and this is where the preventative power of AI it really shines.
How so?
By identifying genetic predispositions towards certain nutrient deficiencies, a really common one is difficulty converting certain B vitamins into their usable form. The plan can ensure you get enough of that specific nutrient.
Or even the active methylated form of it.
Right, long before any clinical deficiency ever shows up.
So food becomes truly medicinal. You're using your grocery list to fill in genetic gaps before they become problems.
That's it. Instead of waiting 5 years for your cholesterol to climb into the danger zone and then getting a prescription.
The AI-driven diet adjusts your fat intake and fiber sources right now to keep those markers optimal.
You're treating the cause decades in advance rather than just the symptom.
So by putting together DNA, lifestyle, and these detailed health markers, AI is fundamentally changing how we think about food. It's moving it from just, generic fuel to a hyper-specific preventative prescription.
It does. It makes the restrictive parts of dieting feel less random and more like highly calibrated performance tuning for your own body.
That's a powerful idea.
Well, it's always that.
There's always a but. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this all sounds revolutionary, but it must face some pretty serious challenges on the road to, becoming mainstream.
It absolutely does. And these are non-trivial challenges.
Right. Anytime you're dealing with such sensitive personal information, there are going to be roadblocks. And when that information is your genetic code, the stakes are incredibly high. What are the main hurdles our sources point to?
There are two main ones, and they're very much connected. The first is data privacy and security.
Of course.
I mean, we're talking about your genetic blueprint, something that is highly sensitive and can't be changed, combined with your intimate real-time health data. The potential for misuse is substantial.
We've all seen data breaches with credit card numbers, which you can at least change. But if my genetic sequence gets out there, that's permanent. What are the specific fears around that?
The fears really center on discrimination. If genetic data that's linked to a predisposition for, say, a certain chronic disease becomes widely available.
You worry it could be used by people outside of your doctor's office.
Exactly, like insurance companies setting your premiums or even employers making hiring decisions. We have to have ironclad data security and really stringent ethical rules. Trust has to be absolute for people to even participate.
It's the ultimate privacy issue, really. The tech can't scale until that trust deficit is gone. What's the second big hurdle? You said they were connected.
The second is accessibility. Right now, getting the genetic tests, the sophisticated AI analysis, the advanced blood panels, it can be very, very expensive.
How expensive are we talking?
Thousands of dollars in some cases for a fully integrated, personalized plan.
Wow. Okay, and that raises a really uncomfortable question, doesn't it?
It does.
If this tech is the key to optimal health, does that mean only the wealthy get access to it? Are we creating a two-tiered system of health where some people are running on premium, genetically matched fuel and everyone else is stuck guessing?
That is precisely the risk that researchers are flagging. For this to truly work, for it to replace the old one-size-fits-all model, it has to be available to everyone, regardless of their income.
Otherwise, you're just widening the health gap that already exists.
You are. The people who are already disadvantaged by poor access to good food and healthcare get left even further behind.
So what's the path forward? How does this move from expensive, cutting-edge labs into your average doctor's office?
The projection is, I'd say, optimistic, but it requires breakthroughs on a couple of fronts, technologically and regulatorily. We need to see a drastic drop in the cost of high-quality genetic sequencing.
And the tracking of all those health markers.
Yes. And we need standardization and clear regulation around how that data is handled to build that public trust we talked about.
So as the costs fall and the security gets better,
it starts to become mainstream. It's not an overnight flip of a switch. It's a steady convergence driven by affordability and safety.
that's a pretty compelling future. Your doctor isn't just treating symptoms anymore. They're prescribing a specific ratio of proteins and fats based on your biological code, maybe decades in advance.
And just think about what that means for the food industry itself. We would move from marketing cereal to kids to providing ingredients optimized for specific genetic profiles.
You could have customized nutrient labels printed right on the package based on your own data.
The possibilities are immense.
So, what does this all mean? I think the big takeaway from this deep dive is that the era of generalized, often contradictory diet advice is coming to an end.
It feels that way.
AI is pushing us toward an era of truly personal health, using those three pillars, our DNA, our lifestyle, and our health markers, to write these hyper-specific, data-informed prescriptions for us. It's a total overhaul of our relationship with food.
It really is. It redefines what the word healthy even means. It's no longer a universal term. It's defined entirely by you.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought to chew on.
A fitting metaphor.
The next time you try a popular diet and you just feel completely drained or sluggish, maybe ask yourself, was that diet a failure? Or was it just completely incompatible with your unique, deeply individual metabolic machinery?
Because we're finally getting the tools to understand that the answer is almost always the latter.
Food for thought indeed. This was a deep dive. Welcome to another episode of AI 10X brought to you by 10 Leaves.